Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come in, come in, come in. This is Tamika's Den. I am Tamika. Get on in here, y'all. Get on in here. Kick off your shoes and relax your feet. You are now in the den. So, guys, this is my review recap for Bel-Air Season 2, Episode 8, The Pursuit of Happiness. Child, it's messy in Bel-Air, y'all. It's messy in Bel-Air, okay? We got Carlton, you know what I'm saying, out here going on a daggone binge, honey, trying to get high, high, high. They're giving him all different kind of options. He could snort it, he could sniff it, he could inhale it, he can freaking smoke it, he can inject it, whichever way he wanted, they got it, right? And he's making up lies, lies, lies to his mother and father, child. They don't believe it, I don't believe it, we don't believe it, Jeffrey don't believe it. Jeffrey is on it, he back in the building, he's on top of his game now that he got to see Frederick. He's digging into some things. You know, we got Phil, he trying to figure out what is going on as far as this business decision that he needs to make. You know, he gets a reminder of why he started his law firm in the first place. And, you know, a reality check as to whether this whole going into business with Erica is really a good idea. Speaking of Erica, we found out what Viv issue really was with her child, okay? We get to the bottom of that, and we also have Viv, of course, kind of having that after effect from her post and the things that she said about the, you know, foundation or whatever. And we got some people that want to come in and talk to her. She's writing up this apology. And Ashley and Will is saying, you really shouldn't have to apologize. Now, it's Will's first game, okay, with this, of course, Doc's team. And, you know, we basically finding out, not that we didn't know, that Doc is keeping secrets, baby. And we trying to get to the bottom and figure out exactly what that is and how it's going to affect Will. You know, we also have Hillary meeting up with LaMarcus and him over here putting her on this billboard. And I'm sorry, y'all, but that billboard looked dry to me, okay? I said you couldn't find a better picture than that. Talking about some Hillary, okay? The picture he took in front of the billboard looked better than the actual billboard to me, in my opinion, okay? And he over here talking about some every little step you take, okay? He ain't trying to back up. He ain't trying to let go. He want to get with her. And, of course, because of the way Jazz acted the last time, he probably will. But I don't trust him, y'all. I don't trust him not for 1 minute, okay? They get her up out of the bed, out of her depressive state, and she end up going to meet up with him. And I'm just waiting to see what's going to come of all this, y'all. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this episode. Take it from the top. You know how we do. So, of course, we started out this episode. You know, we got Aunt Viv putting in this apology, and Will is like, what's the worst that's gonna, you know, happen? They're gonna cancel your fellowship. And she was like, oh my God, do you really think they're gonna do that? You know, she wrecking her nerves about this whole thing. Now, we do get Uncle Phil giving somewhat of an apology to Will, where he's saying we can't keep avoiding each other. We gotta go ahead and talk. You know, every time I walk in the room, you walk out. Of course, since the big argument that they had, and he says, I know that you wanted to get more independence, and I'm going to support that. You know, at the end of the day, I'm going to give you a little bit more control to do what you feel like you need to do, and I'm going to ease up. And Will is like, yo, for real? And he's like, yeah, I'm a man of my word. I said I was going to do that, so I'm going to do that. And when you need my help, you know you could come to me. So Will was like, that's all I really wanted. Okay, cool. I just wanted a little space, and, you know, Viv is like, thank the Lord. Now, of course, when Carson comes in the kitchen, he still don't want to be bothered with Will or his father, okay? And so Viv was like, I know it's asking too much that we could get 2 reconciliations in the same day. Yeah, Viv, it is, all right? Now, Carlton's nose is bleeding, okay, from sniffing that stuff that he missed the snuffleupagus. But he talking about is from the heat, and he say he okay, and he go ahead, you know, up to his room to get ready for school. Now, in the meantime, we'll get to the gym, and, you know, he sees Jackie, and Jackie's apologizing and telling him that she heard that he brung her home okay. You know, they trying to set up a little date for after the game where she could pick him up, where he could pick her up, I should say, after she come out of work. And they could go ahead and talk more. And he's like, yeah, speaking of that, you know what I'm saying? You may not remember everything that happened the other night, but I sure do. Okay, maybe I could go ahead and fill in some of those blanks for you. And they talk about just being more honest with each other, being more open with things. You know, she's saying that she basically don't mind telling him a little bit more stuff. So he's like, well, since you don't mind telling stuff, can you give me the tea on what's really going on with Brian and why he's not here no more, because nobody seems to want to talk about it. She says, yeah, they could get into that later too. At this point, of course, Doc is walking up, so he's like, let me go ahead and go. Your uncle is here. And Doc walks up to her like, what was that all about? And she says that Will is just excited about, this first game that he's having or whatever. And he's basically like, okay, well, let's keep it that way. Okay, keep it cute. Don't say too much. So I said, well, Doc, what is there to say, honey? What is there to say? Now we find out that Will jersey that he's getting is number 14, and the reason why he chose 14 is because his mom had him on the 14, at 414. So, he's like, I came into this world with 14 and I've basically been balling ever since. Now we get Uncle Phil and Jeffrey there, and they like, yo, this is definitely a different speed than Bel-Air. Okay, they already peeping. Things is definitely done differently. They's over here rooting for him. Before the game starts, Jeffrey actually says, look, I'm all in. I'm paying attention. I'm back on board now. I know I was a little off lately with everything that was going on, and I definitely appreciate y'all bringing Frederick in, but I'm back 100%. And Phil is like glad to hear it. And he basically says, he doesn't have to thank him, that he was glad that he was able to see him, even if it was for a short time. So, of course, they going hard. They rooting for, Will while he playing his game. We got Phil talking about, that's my nephew, giving him shout outs and stuff like that. And we also had a moment where Jeffrey was like, is there a problem? Like he was going to have to check somebody. Now, they win the game like we knew that they would or whatever. And we celebrate and we happy and all of that. And as they're leaving, they're seeing that this one guy that just so happened to be inside of the gym with them watching the game, that was kind of walking backwards, looking at Doc and clapping, is now back outside arguing with Doc. So, of course, we curious, and Phil is like, wonder what that's about. And Jeffrey was like, don't worry about it. I'm on it. I'm going to dig down and find out what exactly that's about. Now, Hillary's in the bed. She moping the damn room, more dirty trash on the ground. Her roommates is coming in, picking it up, and they like, girl, we get it. You had a breakup. We all have breakups one time or another. That's fine, but you need to get your behind up. She over here talking about good morning, and they was like, you mean good afternoon, girl, okay? You done went through the daggone morning. We used to you making us breakfast. I said, excuse me? Hillary, you be making breakfast for everybody. You could come over here and make breakfast for me if you want to, okay, girl? But nonetheless, they like, we hungry and we need you to get it together. We need you to kind of ride this momentum that we getting and get things done. So what do you want? The pants or the skirt? So she basically said, we gonna go with skirt today. Now, Viv basically, like I said, is super anxious about these daggone people coming over to talk to her. She's worried about that, trying to get everything together and make sure everything is all right with them. And come to find out, when they come, she thinking she gonna be getting in trouble and that they gonna be, demoting her or possibly asking her to step down. But just the opposite actually happens. They end up being like, nah, you are bringing in the younger generation. You're bringing us some new exposure, and we want to go ahead and push you up, baby, and make you Mrs. President. And she like, well, that's the freaking title that Janice holds, so how could I possibly hold it if she's already holding it? And they want to bring basically out with the old and with the new, right? Viv would be replacing Janice. And so this kind of makes her feel away. She don't know how to feel. On one hand, she's happy and proud, and on the other hand, she don't want to feel like she's stepping on anybody's toes and like she pushing, another sister out. So she's actually really, surprised that they're coming and saying this, and they were telling her they see her as the future, whatever. And so she was just like really off with that. Like, wait a minute, you're not stripping me of it? And they like, no, it's time for change. Now, we basically see that, Will had basically saw Lisa, because Carlton went to Lisa, right? And he gives her this bracelet, and now he's telling her this just for friendship. Basically he appreciates how she always had his back, how she's always looked out for him. Don't think that it went unnoticed. It's a swimmer's charm. And he was like, no matter what, you've always been there. And she tells him she always will be there. Now, he gave her a kiss on the cheek, and I think she misread it and thought that Carlton was trying to get her back, right? Even though we know Carlton is definitely in a weird space and there's something going on with him, and I think she probably would be able to pick it up before a lot of the other people would. But he gives her this kiss and he tells her, I'll catch you later. So now when Will is walking in the hallway, he ends up seeing her and old boy that leaked the video walking together, and he goes to give Carlton the head up. This is the only reason why he speaks to Carlton. Other than that, he really wasn't going to say anything to him. And he basically was like, it was him that leaked the video. And of course, him and Lisa are still mixing it up. I just seen them walking down the hall. And he's like, what are you talking about? She dumped him. She don't got nothing to do with him no more. And he's like, yeah, well, apparently she made up with him after, you know what I'm saying, the situation with me and her, because she's not messing with me no more, which is why Will didn't want to say nothing. He was like, this is not even about me. It's something important or whatever the case may be. So he's telling Carlton that it would be better coming from him if she tells her what Drew did than him or whatever, since her and Carlton actually supposed to have a friendship. But of course that backfires, because in her mind, Carlton actually is jealous and still wanted to get with her. And she's like, he wouldn't do anything like that. He's changed all of a sudden in a matter of, a week? But I'm like, okay, girl. But I guess to a certain degree, from her standpoint, I could see how it would come off and, look that way to her. And of course, Carlton gets pissed and was like, well, I see what the problem is here. You are basically so freaking hell-bent on hurrying up and throwing yourself on somebody else just to get over daggone Will. And Drew is the first person that you decided to jump into. You know what I'm saying? So good luck with that. Mind you, Carlton does man up and apologize to Will and was like, I don't know how much it means, but I'm sorry. And Will tells him it don't mean much and walks away. I'm like, really, Will? Like, you need to grow up. You always expect people to treat you a certain way, but then you can't even do the same thing in return when it comes to certain stuff. I'm just saying. So, of course, we also had, Phil back at the job and them celebrating and us finding a little bit of history about the fact that him and his two friends actually started this company together, and they had a friend that was named Derek that had a heart attack, and it was unexpected, and they thought that after he had this heart attack, the business wouldn't continue. And so Phil kind of was like, feeling a little guilty about the fact that he went and had this meeting, feeling guilty about whether or not this company is actually going to last, and at the same time getting a reminder of what made him start it in the first place. And they were saying today was all about, celebration. They had this wine that was 1964, and they, it was like they gonna pull out all the stops, and basically it's not gonna be no talk about no deals or none of that stuff today. We are just gonna focus on celebrating Derek and lifting up his legacy. So we got Viv here with her friend, and she's like, girl, do you need me to go cut the tires on this chick car? Like, you ain't telling me she was back in your time. I got your back. What's up with that? And Viv is like, nah, we not in damn, college no more. Like, I'm not going that route. And so she's like, okay, you want to keep it classy. You want to keep it cute. I get it. She's like, so what do you want to do? Are you going to go and approach her? Are you going to have any conversations with her? Because let's not act like she didn't backstab you. So I'm like, well, what did she do, y'all? Okay, tell us about it. We need to know. So she ends up telling Viv, you know what I noticed? You worried about, Phil's feelings. You worried about the kids' feelings. You worried about the daggone Janice and, her feelings. You worried about everybody's feelings but yourself. You need to go ahead and put yourself first for a minute and really think about what you need. It was funny to me that she actually brought up that Erica still owed her $20 damn from back in the days. I said, girl, not all the way $20 from college, child. And, basically Viv was saying, of course, as far as the whole Janice thing, that she didn't want to feel like she was cutting her sister out. And so she was like, look, you need to think about what's good for you or whatever, right? And of course, Viv is saying they sophisticated and they grown. So it's like, okay, girl, well, what are you planning on doing? But she did give, Viv that food for thought with telling her you're putting everybody ahead of yourself except for you. Now, back at the school, Ashley is supposed to be building these robots, right? Or the kids, I should say, is supposed to build a robot that at least could complete 2 tasks, if I wasn't mistaken, right? And she's teaming everybody up. And who do you think that Ashley gets besides Dagon Olivia, right? And they, of course, are not caring for each other because we all see her as the one that got rid of damn Miss Hughes, okay? But apparently when they go to meet up, all of a sudden we got Dagon, Olivia saying, no, that wasn't me. I just actually was jealous at the time that you and Miss Hughes was spending together, and I was wishing that, it was me. She's like, that was my favorite teacher too. So I'm like, well, if it wasn't you, then who was it? Okay, I'm sorry. I know Miss Hughes is gone and she already got her severance pay, but who was it that was dropping the dime, girl? Okay, because she claiming that it's not her. And they actually was like, that both of them was jumping to a lot of assumptions, and that they had to go ahead and apologize to each other, right? And so they was like, okay, we gonna be a team and we gonna go ahead and we gonna make this robot. Now Hillary gets to Lamarcus' house again, claiming that this is all business. Of course, he's showing her around. He's showing her his accomplishments. He's talking about, do you want to get in the pool? Because I know you still look good in the bikini. She like, that's not what I'm here for. And in the process of her talking to him about possible promotion ideas that they could run by and all of that, she ends up mentioning this billboard. Like, it's not like I'm on a billboard or anything. He was like, what you mean? She was like, well, when it comes to Ivy or whatever the case may be, they supposed to be putting her up there for her sparkling water. So she was like, he was like, gotcha. So I already knew he was about to come and put a damn billboard up for Hillary. It didn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out, right? So now we basically got to Lisa's basically, her car is now starting outside in the parking lot after school, right? And Will keeps offering to give her a ride. And of course, she keeps telling him no, right? At the same time, Carlton is now walking over to Connor, and he's over here asking him for drugs, which of course, none other than Drew ends up seeing him. And Connor's like, I thought you said you ain't want to be bothered with me, told me to F off, all of that. And he's like, Carlton basically like, hey, it's a brand new day, right? I'm willing to try it today. So he tells him to follow him, and after Lisa keeps trying to get her car started and it keeps not daggone starting, eventually she gives in and tells Will, okay, that he can drive her because apparently her daggone father's wife is in labor, about to have the baby, and she was trying to get to the hospital. So, they get there and she's in her feelings still because she kind of feels like she's the outsider, and they starting this new family. Of course, Will gives her an example of just because family looks different doesn't mean that it's not still family, and how he had to go from change of being there with just him and his mom to now come into a family where it makes up, him going from 2 people to 6 people, and he getting her little snacks out of the vending machine and all of that different kind of stuff, and just basically sitting with her. And in the meantime, Jackie is texting, like, where are you? When are you coming? Are you still coming? And all of that. And he wasn't answering her back quick, fast, and in a hurry. And when he was answering, he just still was saying, yeah, running a little late. I'll get there and things of that nature. And you got Lisa saying that he's really a good friend. And he's like, oh, now I'm a good friend all of a sudden, huh? And she was like, I'm just saying, okay? So Carlton goes on this damn binge, child. They take Carlton to this house. Carlton get high as the sky. Carlton partying hard, jumping all around, dancing and all of this. He wake up confused, looking like he having a panic attack. He looks outside, it's pouring rain, and his car's gone. So now he done had to call his damn mama to come pick him up. Child, only Carlton. So she come and pick him up, and he give her the most bogus damn story I ever heard in my life, y'all. Okay. He didn't even say, which I thought it was going to be like, oh my, I got robbed. They threw me out the car, something, whatever. I don't know. I just was not expecting the story he gave. He claimed that he had a half a beer and that it had to be the medication because he remembered them saying that this could be some of the side effects. And he never felt this way before in his life. He was disoriented. He was confused. He was throwing up. He was nauseous and all of this. And he had to stop and pull over the car. And he basically walked and did not know where he was or where he left the car at. And then when he seen, I'm assuming, a payphone, he went ahead and called her because his phone and his wallet and everything was actually in the car. So now, of course, when they get back, get him back to the house, Phil is like, you don't really believe this story, do you? Right? Like, we do know that he is freaking lying to us. And she's saying, yeah, something is off with the story. I'll admit that. But at the same time, the fact that he called us and the fact that he's at least admitting part of the story, we gotta kind of take that into consideration or whatever, and be careful how we come at him, because then he will never want to talk to us again. And I get where she coming from, but I still felt like we needed to call Carlton out on his BS. So in the meantime, he's in the kitchen, and baby, every time he was stirring up the daggone tea and getting the sugar, Jeffrey was like this. Okay, Jeffrey was looking right through him, seeing the bull crap. He had to hurry up and turn his head this way, because he already know that Jeffrey know that this whole story he's saying is pure BS. Now, in the meantime, LaMarcus take freaking, Hillary. Of course, he got another surprise for her that's going to leave her speechless. And it's this billboard. And I just was not impressed, y'all. It was a plain white billboard that had her face mad big and said Hillary. I guess, it was cute for what it was. But, he was like, well, I don't know all about this venture and the sparkling water and all of that stuff and Ivy, but I know that a girl named Hillary, I know, do deserve to be on a billboard, and just being her in the head, telling her how bad he want to get her back and all of this. And she was like, wow, twice in one day, you are basically leaving me speechless. And he was like, that's a good thing. And then, of course, he wanted, to take a picture of her in front of it. Now, in the meantime, like I said, Jackie had been texting. Her and Will was supposed to have this date. They were supposed to be meeting up, after she got off of work, and he was supposed to pick her up from work. They were supposed to have this whole conversation. But that doesn't happen because he's busy here with Lisa. He done spent all these hours. Finally, the baby is born. Her father's coming out to tell her that she got herself a little brother now. And he was like, I understand if you're not ready, because he knows how she been basically feeling about the whole situation, but she was like, no, let me go meet my little brother. So Will goes to leave, and her dad actually stops him and shakes his hand and was like, thank you. And he's like, oh, it's no big deal. All I did was get her here to the hospital. And he's like, nah, you did a lot more than that. And that meant a lot to Will. And I had to give, Lisa's daddy her props, his props, I should say, because we know how shaky he been and all the mess that he was trying to start with Will's old situation. So it was like he had, some respect there for Will, and he sees that at the end of the day, he really has been a good friend to Lisa, even if they weren't able to make it out, as far as relationship wise. And so he was kind of feeling good about that part, but at the same time, he's like, oh shoot, Jackie. So at this point, he tries to hurry up and run to her job. And I said, well, I know you ain't think she was going to still be there after all these hours. Okay. So, of course, they tell him that she already left to go home. And he like, damn, and he about to go ahead to leave. But who do he bump into but Brian? He's saying he's there to pick up his jersey and stuff. So Will is like, well, can you tell me what the heck is going on? Because nobody else has been honest with me. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather hear from the, horse's mouth. What exactly is happening? Why would you be here picking up your stuff? And he basically says, Doc is not who you think he is. I said, here we go, all right. All of us knew Doc wasn't who the hell, Will thought he was. And so then we just see, Jeffrey also come and tell Phil, even though you got all this stuff going on with, Carlton right now, and I know you got a lot on your plate or whatever the case may be, I think we need to have a conversation about Doc, but we don't really hear what he's saying to him about him, and then we don't hear what, Brian is basically saying to Will at the same time, child, in reference to Doc. We just know it's shady, okay? And so, of course, Carlton basically just tried to deflect, and he said he wanted to be alone. Viv was going to go upstairs and check on him, and he's like, nah, Mom, I'm good. And, Phil also said that he was not going to take this position at the other company. That, like I said, this was a reminder with them reminiscing and, thinking about the legacy and how they started the company. And they both promised that they were not going to be any more secret meetings, because his friend did get mad at him. Like, you had a whole secret meeting over there and you didn't think I was going to find out about it. So, child, speaking of that, Viv went and, basically also confronted damn Erica. and was like, I want to make sure what your intentions are, what you here for, because we're not going to have a repeat of that. She told her she was her best friend and she was her line sister. And apparently, her and Phil used to do breakups and makeups, according to Erica. And on one of those breakups, they got together for almost 2 daggone years, y'all, okay? So it got messy, but she is claiming that was years ago. She's not on that no more, and it's strictly professional. But I said, girl, Erica, we see you, okay? And Viv was like, she would have to basically see, you know what I'm saying, and have that proven to be true because you won't fool her twice, okay? So basically, when Will gets home, he's telling Uncle Phil, like, he knocks at Uncle Phil's door, and he's like, can I talk to you? And Uncle Phil is like, sure, come in. So Will is basically like, it's about Doc, and he sits down, and he was like, well, basically, apparently he's been doing, like, some illegal betting. And Uncle Phil was like, and at this point, somebody found out about it, and they are trying to say that they will, basically blow up him and the players. And Will is like, yes, exactly. And then, he just tells him to have a seat. And they both sitting there looking, and Will got that dumb look on his damn face. Y'all know that look that he be getting every single time. Now, Jeffrey comes in, Carlton room, and he tells him, I found your keys, I found your, car, I found your phone and your wallet and all that stuff. And Carlton trying to play it off like, oh, okay, Jeffrey. He was like, but you know what I find funny? And, Carlton is like, what? He was like, that I found it about 10 miles away, from where you said that it, you walked to. And it was sand and all kind of stuff in it. So he's like, well, again, I told my parents everything that I could remember. I don't know. He was like, wow, that's strange. And so Jeffrey was saying that's far too far to walk. Okay, you did not walk that. Like, I see your bull for what it is. And so Carlton was still trying to be like, well, I don't know. I don't remember and all of that. And he just told Carlton, like, the truth come out, right? What's done comes to the light, and we gonna find out what's really going on one way or another. Like, you may have your parents fooled for a minute, but you ain't got me fooled, because he kept saying, well, I told my parents everything already. And Jeffrey was like, I'm well aware. I said, all right now, Jeffrey's back in the building. He back on the case. How long do y'all think it's going to take him to figure it out? Because, baby, I really feel like he already knew the minute that he looked at daggone Carlton. He knew what time it was, in my opinion. But y'all put it in the comments. Let me know, what did y'all think about this episode, child. If I left anything, I'll put that down in the comments. Tell me what you like, what you didn't like, what you rate the episode, all that good stuff. Let's discuss it down there. Like, comment, share, subscribe if you are so inclined. Give me a wave. Let me know you came by. Put some flames up in the sky. Till next time, y'all. Toodaloo.